Bears, blog, boys, you know it all, computer, analytic, geeky nerds. Michael Schneider, Tom Cavanaugh, the Bear, blog, boys, know-it-alls, doing some podcast somewhere. Nobody wants to hear you. Geeks, you pencil-pushing, skinny jean-wearing geeks, you.
Coming to you live from our mom's basement, this is the Bears Blog Boys podcast. I am your co-host, Tom Cavanaugh, here with my good buddy and other co-host, Michael Schneider. We were together for this game. We were watching it. It was a frustrating watch. The Bears drop a game. They definitely should have won. I mean, I'm not saying they should have won based on their performance, but like coming into this game, you are playing against a Ravens team that is kind of reeling. I know they're coming off a bye with their backup quarterback. This is a game we definitely expected them to win. They drop it in very disappointing fashion. Brother, how have you been doing since when we actually watched the loss live? And man, I was just like, where are you at with the Bears right now?
Yeah, you can tell the vibes. I can even hear it in your voice that the vibes are down right now. It was funny. We were talking about it. We were together at our buddy Brian's house, kind of full house. We were just talking about like the Bears. They won't give us a 5-game win streak, right? Like we should have knew like that wasn't gonna happen, even though the cards were in our favor. I mean, here I know we're kind of banged up on defense. What you're going against, essentially. I mean, not the third string quarterback, but a quarterback they just signed to the practice squad, elevated, and made him look really well. It was a very disappointing Bears loss because like you thought like okay, a 4-game win streak, okay, the teams are finding ways to win. You're if you weren't dominating in the pass game, you're at least getting the run game or you're getting the turnovers. And we didn't get any of that this week. So it's like, especially losing to a backup quarterback, it brought I think us and a lot of Bears fans down to earth. Like you can't take this team serious if you can't beat this Ravens team that was 1-5. Given their injuries and everything. And I didn't even think like it wasn't like Derrick Henry was running down our throat. Like this was a win that could have definitely continued the streak. But you come away and lose this game, who's going to take us serious? So given all that time, I am also deflated from it as well, kind of down to reality. And there's some still things I'm still bummed about, come Tuesday.
Yeah, most definitely. That I think you brought up a lot of great points there. If you were to tell me the Bears lost the game in this fashion and I didn't watch the game, I definitely would have thought Derrick Henry would have just ran all over them because without Lamar, like that was – but it really just felt like they were way more prepared than the Bears on both sides of the ball. I think they had a great game plans on both sides of the ball. I really like what they did on offense. I didn't really like what they did on offense, but I respected what they did on offense. They were going after a lot of weak links on the Bears defense. And before this game, we should probably preface this by we literally did a preview show expecting Lamar Jackson to play. Then the whole fiasco happens where he was, I guess, not a full participant in practice. That I thought that all of that was kind of weird. I guess they didn't consider him a full participant because he wasn't taking starting reps. He was just the practice team quarterback. So I thought that was weird. Tyler Huntley kind of starts abruptly, and I don't know if that threw the Bears off, if the Ravens actually did their job with trying to throw the Bears off or they weren't prepared. But I honestly think they would have done a similar game plan with Lamar anyway. And then also Kyler Gordon goes on IR right before on that Saturday. So, I mean, two huge swings and shifts in this game. I think the absence of Kyler Gordon was huge in this one because Nick McLeod really struggled. I thought the Ravens we'll get into the defense. I want to start with the offense, but yeah, I just thought the Ravens knew where the Bears' weaknesses were on kind of both sides of the ball, and went after them. And that goes to show you and give credit to a good coaching staff that was under some heat after a bye week. They came out with a really, really good game plan and were able to get a win with a backup quarterback against what we thought was a better Bears team. And I'm not saying that it's all doom and gloom for the Bears moving forward, but yeah, Snyder, I just feel like in order for us to take them seriously, in order for us to actually have them with real playoff aspirations, you can't have games like this, right? Where you're the less disciplined team, you're still making critical mistakes, right? Not only were you out prepared, not only were you out planned, but the Bears shot themselves a foot a whole lot in this game. Mistakes, penalties, the same stories that we keep talking about. And look, I get those are going to happen during a game, but they cannot happen to the degree that they're currently happening at. It's every single game they're making too many mistakes in order to take this team seriously.
And that's what we've been talking about. It's been every year where they get, these opportunities to really go up big early in the game. I think, Tom, correct me if I'm wrong. I know the first drive, we're in the goal line. Second, I don't know if it was the goal line, but at least it was the red zone. Then you only come away with 6 points. Like, you have those opportunities. Hey, let me go up a touchdown. And then you stop them, or I don't know, they got a field, whatever it was. But then now you have the opportunity to go up two possessions, which is huge, right? Against a backup quarterback, and you failed to cash in on that opportunity. And it's just situations where, it's a penalty or, something about the operation just isn't clean. And it's like, damn, like now we're only up 6-0. One touchdown from the Ravens. Now they're up one versus we could have just been up 2 possessions. And that's exactly how it went down. So it's like opportunities early in the game that we're given, we're not cashing in and making the most of, because at that point we could have controlled the game script. It could have been a lot different. So it seems like that's been the story all year, other than the Lions game. But that's been really holding us back, that we cannot deliver on those opportunities to, go up 2 possessions or punch it in for that touchdown instead of being up 3-0. And I think that's been a big reason why we're having trouble finishing games late, because we're not taking care of business early on when the opportunities are actually the best looks that we see most of the game.
100%. I mean, they only score 1 touchdown in this game, and Caleb said it in his presser. Like the first 2 drives, if you go up 14-0, this is a totally different game script, right? The Ravens kind of have to change what they're doing. And I don't think they can keep the Bears as off balance as they were, given that the Ravens kind of just took command when the score was pretty neutral. So yeah, absolutely. I think they're kind of squandering those opportunities to really cash in. And look, I think that Caleb has been under a lot of flack lately, right, about his performances, even though I actually thought this one was like, pretty okay. Obviously, there was one crucial. We'll talk. We can talk about his performance in depth, but there was one crucial mistake, no doubt about it. You can't have it, especially when your offense isn't working like it should. Like those kind of plays are debilitating. So there's no doubt about that. You can't excuse it, but I didn't think this was like just a Caleb problem. I thought there was just problems all across the board. There was penalties, right? I think the Bears were penalized 8 times in this game. I'm not sure how many of those were on offense. And then there were times where protections were blown, right? Like Swift was blowing protections. The offensive line was not picking things up correctly. Jonah Jackson had a really bad game. I think Theo Benedict continues to struggle as a pass blocker. And then there's just Rome just not coming up with passes he should catch there's on crucial 3rd downs, he's dropping the ball. It's like all of those things, the Bears aren't good enough to overcome them, right? Like if you're a top offense in the league and you have 1 turnover, we saw it last night with Mahomes. You have 2 interceptions earlier in the game. They end up still scoring 28 points, right? Because they're that good of an offense. It's not going to kill them. The Bears can't have, I would say the Bears can't have half the mistakes that they're having right now in order to function. And they're just doubling them up. Like they're coming in waves, and they're just not a good enough team to overcome them. And I'm not saying that they can't get there, but that's where they're at right now. So when they make those mistakes, it's just really going to put them behind the 8 ball, and it's going to be really hard to win games handedly, like they probably should have done in this game, given all the circumstances at play.
Yeah, and then that's the thing. So, like the previous 2 weeks, the running game was incredible, right?
Yes.
The offense didn't really have to do much. Caleb just kind of had to, be like the operator, and not really have to carry this team. Now, I'm not saying the running game was bad, and that was the reason why we lost, but it took a step down to where it's like, okay, hey, now the quarterback has to step up, receivers have to step up, some of the offensive line have to step up to kind of make up for that, and it didn't happen, right? I hate when I have to nitpick Rome Odunze, because he had 100 and something. Like you look at the box score week in and week out in his stat line, he's looking like a top, 15-ish, 10 wide receiver. But week in and week out, it's like you want him to come down with those catches in traffic, and he doesn't like muscle it through, which is so weird because in college, and I understand college is you're going against guys who are a little bit less physical, less athletic, but he was incredible at those like contested catch balls in college. So surprised to see that he doesn't have those strong of hands to really muscle that in. And it's just a nitpick on him, right? It's just like one of those things that's stopping him from like, okay, maybe he's like a top 15-ish wide receiver to like, hey, if Roma Dunze comes down with those balls, you're having a conversation like he's one of the top 5 best wide receivers in the NFL. But it just seems like in those moments when we need a big play from him for him to just muscle it down, it really never happens. And I just one, it's a nitpick, not out on him, but just like it could really also, you know, save us in a lot of opportunities if he could step up in those situations.
Yeah, that's the thing, Senator. Like, it's not like I'm always going to give players grace. Like, I never like I'm expecting anyone to be perfect, but when it's like the same issue over and over again in like really meaningful spots, like that's where it's like, if you're going to be this team's wide receiver one, if you're going to be one of their best players, like those can't happen. Like that, you just got to come up with those. Like I actually like went through and graded all of Caleb's throws, and I thought the one that Rome dropped was one of his best throws of the game. I mean, there was nothing open. Caleb scrambles out of pressure, makes an insane throw to get them down in the red zone, and Rome just can't come up with it. And it's like you feel those so much more when there are other mistakes at play, right? And like that's what makes that's what makes you a better player, right? That's what makes you one of the best players this team can rely on when there are mistakes, when got like rookies. I think Loveland had a false start penalty or two. And when all that stuff's happening, you can turn to those guys to know that you can count on, and they're going to come up with those tough plays. And I just don't think that there is a guy right now that they can do that with. I think Rome will get there. Again, this is somewhat earlier in the season. I know we're about halfway, but these are young players. I understand like it's going to take time for it to all come together. But yeah, I think that they're just all across the board. There are too many mistakes right now for the Bears to be a team that can beat some of the best teams in the playoffs. And Sarah, do you want to just transition to Caleb Williams' performance as a whole? Because I think it's tough right now when you're looking at what Jaden Daniels did last year. You're looking at what Drake May is doing this year. And then you kind of look at all the statistics and are being like, wow, like Caleb Williams just like can't compare at all to them, or can't compare to the peaks from what we've seen to either of these quarterbacks. Like he's a bust. It's time to have that conversation. And look, I don't think he's played amazing by any means. He definitely like hasn't been the number one overall pick that you've wanted. But again, I'm not like too concerned with how he's played either. Like in this game specifically, like I actually thought he played relatively well. I thought that he operated the offense that they were trying to operate. And look, I can criticize Ben Johnson. I know you talked about the run game. I thought they maybe went away from the run game more than they should have. I think they were pretty hell-bent on take advantage of the run looks that the Ravens were giving. They were really, hell-bent on stopping the run. And the Bears wanted to take advantage of that through the air. And I thought that Caleb actually played pretty well with the game plan that was given to him. They wanted to work a lot over the middle. I thought he did that pretty well outside of that one interception and those intermediate passes. And I thought that going through and grading him, I thought he was mostly pretty accurate. I had him down with 3 missed throws. 2 were pretty bad. The one miss to Devin Duvernay deep was bad. I mean, you got to give your receiver a chance. The one where he hung inside to DJ Moore was bad. And then I can't remember the one I had. I had him for not that significant of a one. I think he was just late on a pass that he missed. I didn't think there was a whole lot of missed throws. I thought they were all pretty accurate. I just think that the way that they want him to play right now is not advantageous for a bunch of wild plays. Ben Johnson wants him to operate his offense, right? And you can go back and look at Jared Goff. There's not a whole lot of wild throws on Jared Goff's tape either. Like this is the offense that he's in. So it's not going to look like amazing, incredible. Oh my God, only he can make those throws, but it's also like efficient. And that's what they want it to be. Just the one big play that he missed was that interception, which he could not, like, you cannot make that play there, right? He was way late on that throw. It was there. They were trying to high-low Roquan. They had Loveland underneath. Roquan bites up on the underneath route. The intermediate route was there. Caleb's just way late on it. The corner made a good play. You can't make that throw though. That's like too dangerous of a throw. But that's pretty uncharacteristic for who Caleb's been this year. So
That's what I was going to say.
yeah. I'm not panicking. I think a lot of fans are just given the circumstances and who else was in that draft class last year. Because I think this was always, again, part of the plan. Like there was going to be growing pains, and this is an offense that is, I think, this is an offense that wants to be in the driving seat, not the quarterback make the plays and like make the wild plays to really be looking special, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and here you got to understand, and I know Bears fans are very, very triggered, right?
Yes.
Anytime you criticize Caleb, fans are gonna say, "Oh, you're a hater. You're calling him a bust," and it's like not the case, right? Yeah, when you're the number one overall pick, and in a very, very good quarterback class, the narratives and the headlines are gonna be, a lot harder than maybe than they were for Justin Fields or So and then given the situation that he entered, that it wasn't our number one overall pick, like everyone said prior to drafting Caleb, he's entering, a very good situation on paper. I know the head coach is a different story. I'm not going to get into that. But we're just saying, like, Caleb actually had some advantages compared to the next guys, right? You compared Drake May's situation, even Daniel's situation last year. I think anyone would have taken, again, ignoring the head coach, I'm just saying the talent on paper, everyone would have taken Caleb. So that's why I think the expectations for Caleb Williams, given that it wasn't the Bears' original pick, also get factored in on, the standards being a little bit higher. Now, when I watch Caleb Williams this season and throughout his career so far, I am never panicking, right? I think he's shown he has a very high floor. He almost reminds me of like early on Baker Mayfield, to like that. He was super efficient. He was like, operating everything pretty smoothly. And, I think he just has to grow, right? But I understand, right? When you have a number one overall pick in this situation with Ben Johnson, you want it to be electric, right? You want him to be a Josh Allen, Lamar, Dak, like that type of guy instantly. And, I think you got to take in consideration just like the college system he came in, how he can get away with just being the best athlete, trusting his arm, have all day to throw. And in the NFL, it's like you're just learning so much more. It's so much more complex. With Ben Johnson, it's going to be so much more complex. And I get it, right? You want immediate returns from that talent. And I think you do see some of the immediate talent. Like you see him escape the pocket and fire in a ball, like almost looks like Matthew Stafford, like, right? So I think he gives us a little bit of a wild play. And I think right now he's just learning how to function in this offense. And I think as time goes on with Adonze, with Loveland, and then hopefully Burden, I don't know how long DJ Moore is going to stick around. These guys just need to keep continuing to build chemistry, get on the same page, and I think that's going to help a lot. So, like, do I understand the criticism because you're not getting the superstar that a lot of us expected him to be earlier on? Yeah, I totally get comparing him to the other guys. I totally understand that. But are we in any position to say, like, we need to panic or do we need to think beyond or this is not a good fit with Ben? I think that's way too premature because I think he's shown that he does have a high floor and that he's very efficient. And you see the wild plays. Like, I am happy with Caleb Williams as my quarterback. I am not panicking at all.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at. I'm not panicking. I think that there are definitely some elements to his game that need to be cleaned up. I thought honestly the missed throws were not as bad in this game. I really only had him down for 3 and 2 were like pretty egregiously missed. So again, that if that doesn't clean up, then yeah, I am concerned because his adjusted completion percentage is a little lower. Like I definitely think that there are some passes he leaves on the field just because he's not putting the ball where he wants to be, where he wants it. But really where I think that the issues he's having will get better with timing. And with timing, what I'm trying to say is the issues that he's having will get better with time because hopefully he will play better within the timing of the offense to where the accuracy and I think just how quickly he plays, that just eases out over time. The more comfortable he gets with his offense. I think there are just passes where he's just a little late. He's just a little late. It's not egregiously late. Like, it's not putting the passes in harm's way. There was that one interception, obviously, that's what happened. But like the catch and run opportunities, if he just threw the ball a little bit sooner, then there's that many more yards on the field to be had. Like that's kind of where I think he's at right now. But the fact that he's willing to try the hard throws, the fact that he's willing to try the throws that are kind of what this offense is built by, I think is encouraging. And I think he'll only get more comfortable the more he's in this offense. And I think we're seeing some type of progression than what we saw from last year. And I just think, again, we just got to be a little more patient. I'm not hitting the panic button. But yeah, Snyder, I think that all comes down to who he's in this class with. So, or who else is in this class and how they're performing. So again, I'm just going to give it a little more time before I'm ready to just like pull the plug completely, because again, I still think this is way better than Fields. I still think this is way better than Trubisky. I think it's just going to take time in this offense that requires a lot of timing, anticipation, accuracy. Again, I think anticipation and accuracy have probably been his biggest issues, and that's what this offense is built by. So obviously it's not going to be as smooth as we want it to when those things aren't fully there for him. But again, I'm going to give it time for it to play out and him to get more comfortable in this offense before I'm willing to make any like definitive judgments.
Yeah, and like there's certain things that again you'll never see in the box, but like I think he does do a good job. Like he's improved this year of staying within the pocket, going through his reads, right? I think like he does do some stuff like at a high level that we haven't seen before as a Bears fan, and I get it, right? Like sometimes it sounds like when we say like be patient, it sounds like we're making every excuse in the world for him, right? But like the issues that we see with him are not like hit that panic button. Like I think there's been 2 balls this year that I could criticize the decision. It was the interception late in this game, and I think there was one that was to DJ Moore that he was late on a sideline, I think the week prior, right? Those are like really the only 2 passes that I think have been uncharacteristic for Caleb Williams. But like that's not a consistent play. Like, he doesn't put the ball in harm's way. So again, I just think with Caleb, he's shown that the floor is high, and it's just some minor stuff that I think will get worked on through time as he gains confidence in this system, as it becomes a little bit more instinctive. Once he gets on the same page with his wide receivers, and they again are growing into this system, I think the best is still yet to come. But I think we have to understand you got to be patient. But I understand it's the number 1 overall pick we're talking about. You want the more immediate return. So I could see both arguments, but please, right. I would say to a lot of Bears fans, just stay balanced, right? There's no reason to panic and be out. And, there's no reason to, just be a little bit balanced with it.
For sure. Yeah. It's a long season still. Like, I think that there will be more peaks. And if you're just looking at PFF grades, I mean, Caleb has been pretty up there with some of the better quarterbacks in his own class, like big time throw percentage. He is, well, you can't really count Joe Milton because Joe Milton only comes up in cleanup time, but he's 3rd in big time throw percentage. He's low in turnover worthy play percentage. He's the 3rd best or the 4th best. And he has one of the lowest pressure to sack rates, which was a huge deal for him to clean up. I think too, Snyder, that's a little bit maybe too drilled in his brain. So he's kind of quick to like check the ball down or veto plays because he really doesn't want to take sacks. And look, I appreciate his effort because he's gotten it way down this year. I mean, he's in Bo Nix and Michael Penix territory where like Jaden Daniels, JJ McCarthy, Drake May are all really high in that stat, which is a bad thing. So I think just maybe playing a little bit looser, and I think that will come with time when he is more comfortable in this offense. I think he is trying to operate it, to perfection. And I admire him for doing that. But I think when he's not at that place where he's really like making an effort to do that, we'll see a more comfortable Caleb Williams, and it won't feel as tight. I think that's probably the biggest feeling I get when watching this offense. Like there's obviously there's good from it, and I think he's doing good things, but it does feel kind of tight, and that might come from, hey, you got to get the ball out, can't take a sack here. and you can't play the style that you're used to playing at. So I think he'll find a better balance. The more comfortable in this offense that he'll get.
Yeah, Tom. Before we transition to defense, did you want to talk about anything else on offense from like individual performance or just game plan beyond Caleb Williams?
Yeah, I did. I thought Swift was running the ball pretty well,
Yeah.
and that's why I was a little surprised that they didn't lean on him more. I thought, Monangai had that really big run earlier in the game, and then I think things kind of tailed off for him. But I felt like whenever they were getting the ball to Swift, their run game was looking pretty promising. And he only had 11 attempts. I know he was banged up all week on the injury report, and the fact that Monangai factored in so early into the game told me he's probably not 100% Swift, and maybe they didn't feel comfortable giving him a full workload. But I was a little bit surprised how quickly they were to get away from the run game. And honestly, just in general, like, I didn't think this was the best game plan for Ben Johnson. I thought the Ravens kind of they had his number in this game, especially whenever they were able to get the Bears in true passing situations. I thought the blitzes they dialed up were very, very effective. We saw on those 2 intentional grounding plays that the Bears just didn't have an answer for the blitz that the Ravens dialed up. So I just thought overall this was not the offense's best effort. And honestly, Caleb would probably be down the list in terms of who I fault this for. I would think the offensive line and Ben Johnson's not Ben Johnson, I guess the offensive staff's game plan were bigger issues in this game for sure. And Senator, the last thing I'll say before I turn over to you, I'm so over seeing DJ Moore get runs in the backfield.
Yeah.
I just think they're just waste plays. This season, he has 11 in rushing attempts for 37 yards. It's averaging 3.4 yards per carry. He has -6 yards, rushing yards over expected. He's averaging negative 0.9 EPA per rush. We don't need to see that anymore. It's cool that he has the body type and like somewhat of the skill set to be somewhat of a running back, but he's not good at it, right? Like, I just think that unless you're doing it for like passing game reasons, there's really no reason to keep handing the ball off to DJ Moore in the backfield.
Yeah, I don't mind. I like how you say that. I don't mind him lining up back wide because I think you can do cool stuff and like motion and get him the ball. Like, essentially like a dressed up screen type of thing. Right. Is how I kind of like that formation. But yeah, I totally agree with you there. Like, get him involved in like the screen game, maybe quick pass slant, whatever. Just if you want it, I would think Ben Johnson would have to this point have been maybe a little bit more creative getting DJ Moore in yak opportunities rather than just try to hand him the ball off. But yeah, I couldn't agree more with you there.
There was a play. It was, I think, his second handoff in this game where it was a really cool play. Like, he motioned from out wide into the backfield and the Bears were in pistol, and like the run play is there. Like, it was a counter play and there's a hole there. And if like Monangai or Swift was in there, I think they see it a lot better. But DJ Moore just like totally misses it because like he's not a running back, right? Like, you're asking him to do something he's never done before. And I just think that it was a huge momentum shift because the Bears were marching. I think it was on their 3rd drive. And then that was a 2nd and 9 play and it goes for no yards. And it's like, now you're in 3rd and 9. It's like, all right, I don't need to see this anymore, right? Maybe in an opening game script, but other than that, I don't need to see this anymore. But yes, and I mean, what did you think about the run game? I thought they just like went away from it too soon.
Yeah, I hate to sound like a broken record and beat a dead horse, but it's just like, as you said, Caleb said, I know ideally you go up 14-0, right? Mm-hmm. Even if you go up 10-0, now you're up 2 possessions. Maybe you can lean into that run game a little bit more, right? So I just think like those things, not I'm saying they get overlooked, but like that is so important to changing like your game script and your game plan. If you can get that 2 possession lead early on and you can start leaning into the run, now you control the time of possession, and then you kind of go from there. So I think like the Ravens kind of even played into that, right? So we're kind of like, maybe they oversold the run or whatever it was to where to let the Bears get away from that. And you've seen what happened when we don't have that rushing attack. But, you get those scores early on. Now you're in total control of that game, and it's just a different script. So it's like when you miss out on those opportunities early on, it could really come back to haunt you and what you're doing for the rest of the game. So I can't stress enough, like a really good team takes advantage of those opportunities. And it's like from stuff that the Bears are shooting themselves on the foot, like whether it's a false start or intentional grounding or just like whatever, just whatever it is that preventing us from getting there, that we're shooting yourself in the foot or a center snap. And, like this has been like this common story of this season that I just want that team to clean up those early gifts they get on, early in that game and just, cash that in. And I think that, played a factor in why we couldn't really commit to that run game deep into this game.
Yeah, and it was the total opposite for the Ravens, who I thought like could really lean on the run game and play action game, and
Exactly.
they had a really good game plan for the Bears. And I thought it was really creative, Snyder, what they were doing with Keaton Mitchell and going after the Bears edge rushers. They really targeted Deo in this game with those perimeter runs. They did a lot of read option stuff that if Lamar was playing, I mean, I could only imagine how successful that would have been. But the reason we started to see more Keaton Mitchell is they had no respect for Deo whatsoever, the ground he could cover in the run game, and they really went after him. And I thought this is going to be a problem, I think, on tape for the rest of the season, going up against more athletic quarterbacks and more creative run games where they have some speedsters to get to the perimeter, because towards the end of the game, they were really just having their way whenever they wanted to run outside the tackles. I think they were like the 10th best team in terms of rushing outside the tackles this week, EPA wise. So that was a weakness there. And then in the passing game, they really went after Jaquan Brisker. He was targeted 8 times and gave up 6 receptions. He had a coverage grade in man coverage of 29. I mean, again, I thought they just really isolated the weak spots of this Bears defense and had a great game plan to exploit them.
Yeah, I mean, here, I think maybe I'm guilty of overlooking. I mean, Jim Harbaugh has been a coach for 17 plus years, around that, coming off a bye against this Bears team that absolutely does have holes and weaknesses. And he just came out very, very prepared. I mean, give him credit, right? Snoop Huntley, they just elevate him to the active roster. And to come away with that, I mean, you have to give credit to the head coach for just attacking the Bears like that. And Deo, I mean, Tom, I could go on a whole entire rant about this. Don't get me wrong, I love Dennis Allen, the coordinator. I just hate these like 4-3, Tampa 2 style of coordinators that like these, big, beefy defensive ends that are long and, 275 plus pounds. But man, the way that Keaton Mitchell was getting around that edge, like with minimal effort, it seemed like anytime Keaton Mitchell got an outside run, he was taking it 7+ yards, right?
100%.
You can't do anything as a defense when you're giving up 6, 7, 8 yards per carry. You're never gonna do anything. And the way that they just exploit Deo there, I mean, it just makes me question not the scheme, right? But it's just like you got to have a little bit more juice, right? You have to have that athleticism there. You have to have that speed rusher who's also like kind of relentless against the run, and we don't have that, with Deo at all. Or even like someone we could swap in. Other than I know Montez Sweat is probably better at that, given his athleticism. But we don't have like anyone else who maybe could fit that mold. Like, and it wasn't Shamar Turner, who unfortunately just tore his ACL. I know we didn't cover that, but we don't have anyone that we could rotate like that is there. And yeah, it's just that whole situation, that 4-3 beefy, and I'm just like tired of that being the model there.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going away anytime soon, but like,
no.
yeah. But I do think that they're like, I don't know. I just think there's just like, I just don't know what Deo's giving you at this point. Like, he's a big body. He's hard to move off the ball. I understand that. But like, when you go up against these teams that can really exploit him out in space, like, and then he's not really giving you anything at all as a pass rusher. Snyder, I'm looking at QB pressure percentage of the opponents the Bears have gone up against this week. The Tyler Huntley or Snoop Huntley was by far the least pressured quarterback the Bears have faced, or I guess of the Bears' performances. They only pressured him on 11.1% of his dropbacks, which is extremely low. The next closest was Jared Goff against that in that Lions game at 20.7%. So they just weren't able to affect him at all. And this is a guy that has taken a ton of sacks throughout his career. I mean, he's been one of the most sacked quarterbacks on a per dropback basis whenever he comes into play. So the fact that they weren't able to get after him, and they did blitz him a decent amount. They blitzed him 9 times per PFF. That's really discouraging. And it just goes to show you that like the best teams that know how to figure out your blitz, which I thought the Ravens had really good answers in terms of getting guys out in the route and in the proper places to exploit the guys that were blitzing. And then also just from a game plan perspective, really neutralize this pass rush as well, move the pocket a whole lot. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard for this Bears defense to really affect the passer when they just don't have guys that can win on one-on-ones. And again, this was not the Ravens offensive line is not the Eagles. Like this is an offensive line they should have had a better performance with. I know Grady Jarrett had an okay game, but I think everyone was pretty disappointing in a game that they should have definitely been more effective in terms of rushing the passer.
Yeah, I mean, Snoop Huntley, he looked like the most comfortable, guy you pick up off the street that I've ever seen play. And it's just like, I'm just thinking like, in most scenarios in that situation, you feel good maybe being a little bit conservative in the game, kicking field goals and like, okay, hey, your defense probably going to get you the ball right back, like whatever it is. This wasn't the case. They made this guy look super comfortable. They clearly had a game plan. And that's the thing, as you're saying, kind of like we have so much money. We have a lot of, early round draft pick in this defensive line, but it's been the same story through this Ryan Poles era. It's like a lot of these quarterbacks look very comfortable against the Bears. And if you have all day to throw, your back seven can only hold up for so long. And I get they're banged up as well. And I give them credit. You typically the back seven, in my opinion, looks pretty prepared. I know Brisker didn't have a great game, but I don't ever see like our cornerbacks just getting like abused, right? And I know there's obviously times they're giving up plays. Don't get me wrong, but I don't see them getting abused for like 150 plus yards or like getting targeted 10 plus times. Like I don't see that there, right? But any quarterback you give all day to throw, something's gonna break,
Mm-hmm.
and you have an athletic guy like Stu Huntley, if he makes that first guy miss and he buys some even more time, and I think that's what was happening as well, that it's not gonna be good, and it just goes into the individuals on the defensive line never winning their one-on-one matchup, right? They're not beating that one guy, generating pressure quickly, and it's paying, right? Like they're beefy dudes that, Andrew Billings might collapse the pocket, right? Montez Sweat and Deo, they might push their guy, back a couple steps, right? But they don't have that like pass rush arsenal where they're beating that guy and making the offensive lineman look silly. Like that's never happening. And it hasn't happened all season. And you give those quarterbacks all that time, it's going to look like how it did.
Yep. The Bears had 7 pressures this entire game, right? And only against the Ravens. So they had 3 sacks technically, but still like the 3 sacks of the 7 pressures, like it just felt like overall that they weren't able to affect the quarterback. And I think some of those were like Tyler Huntley ran out of bounds on one. So again, like this wasn't a performance where they were consistently getting in the backfield, consistently affecting the passer. And I also thought that for all the match stuff that Dennis Allen wants to do, I thought the Ravens had a really good game plan of getting guys lost in coverage, going crossers over the middle of the field, and then just guys like not picking it up. You can't have a performance that the Bears did with their front in terms of affecting the passer and then also be down your top 3 corners. Like that's just you said that, Snyder. Like if you give them all day to throw, it's just going to be a recipe for disaster. And I thought that's exactly what happened. Nick McLeod really struggled in this game as well. He was targeted 3 times, I think allowed 2 catches, but he allowed that big one to Rashad Bateman to start off the half. And I thought this just kind of set the tone for the rest of this game.
Yep.
I also thought too, Snyder, the Ravens like kind of avoided when you have a backup quarterback, things have to be perfect, right? You have to be efficient on early downs. And I thought the Ravens did that. They weren't really putting themselves behind the sticks. And again, that just kind of goes to show like the Bears just flat out were out game plan in this one.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Again, you have to give Harbaugh credit. I mean, he came out the bye with the quarterback, and he knew how to attack this Bears team, and he did so very effectively. And there's not a criticism to Ben Johnson. Like, again, this is a 15-year coach coming very prepared and just attacking the Bears' weak spots, and they made the most of it.
Yeah, it's a shame because I think the Bears should have won this game, and we're gonna look back and be like, man, we really shouldn't have dropped this because this was supposed to be a little bit easier of a matchup if Lamar Jackson wasn't a go. So yeah, that's disappointing. I think long term, this is gonna be one of those games you'd want back, but I'm not totally panicked yet. Do I think the Bears were they as good as a 4-2 team you would think they'd be? Probably not, right? And this game kind of showed that. But I do think that they're still doing good things. And like you can't ignore the highlights of the season where they've been able to have success. I thought the run game improvements were real. Those last two games off the bye week. And I'm hoping they can still continue to run the ball as effectively as they were. Because if they can do that, then I think a lot more opens up. And really what it comes down to, Steiner, on offense, they just have to stop shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah.
They have to execute better and just stop making mistakes because they're in their own way right now. On defense, I think they're going to live and die with how good Dennis Allen's game plans are because they're extremely banged up in the secondary. Kyler Gordon's going to miss at least the first 4 games or these next 3 games.
Yep.
Who knows? It could be even lengthier. We have no idea. And then, Jalen Johnson's not – I don't think he's supposed to come back. He could come back soon enough.
Like late, yeah.
Yeah.
Even if he does, I think it's going to be depending on where we're at as a football team.
Right. So we don't know when he's coming back or even if he's coming back. And then Tyreek Stevenson, we don't know. He could come back next week. He could be out for longer. We have no idea. So it's really going to come down to how good their game plan is and if they want to be aggressive at the trade deadline, because I still feel like they're missing that guy who can consistently win their one-on-ones at really any spot. I mean, Gervin Dexter is probably their best player at that, but even he had a rough one in this game. So, I don't know where my expectations should be for the remainder of the season. What do you think, Steiner? Like, what are you wanting out of this Bears team?
I'm still very optimistic. Here, I am very thankful that I love Ben Johnson, the coach. Mm-hmm. I think he's raised the floor so much higher, just giving his play designs, and I can't overlook the connection that Ben Johnson, Caleb, and Adunze have. That's a very, very and the run game. I think regardless who's back there, that's a foundation of Ben, Caleb, Rome, and the run game that you could build on for many, many, many years. And I think if you're just looking at that as being like a major W, I think it is, right? I am very optimistic that foundation can continue to be built upon with, maybe the connection with, DJ had a sneaky game of 7 receptions, 70 plus yards. Maybe for the rest of the season, that connection grows, right? Maybe you see Colson Loveland get worked in a little bit more. You've seen how he can impact the run, and then maybe Burden emerges. So all those things I think is a really, really good foundation that I think could still continue to grow as the weeks pile on. And, I think if the Bears are in competitive and contention in any game, if all that's clicking, right? I think the defense is, I'm not saying they're a great unit, but I think they're good enough if the offense is doing that, maybe combined with some turnovers, that they could at least hold their own to keep this team competitive. So I'm very optimistic. I think the foundation is there. It just has to be tightened up. I think other players need to be tightened up and maybe, make a little bit more of an impact. And I think, again, the penalty, shooting themselves in the foot, if that can get cleaned up, that's why I just think the best has yet to come, because, it just hasn't been fully unlocked. It's there, right? You see glimpses of it all being there, but you haven't seen it straight through at their full capability. And I think there could be a game or two where that starts to get rolling. So again, I'm still very, very optimistic, and I do love the foundation that the Bears have shown us thus far halfway through the season.
Yeah, most definitely. I think that's a really, good way to look at it. We haven't seen this offense fully click yet. And what we have seen, I think, is encouraging. There has been noticeable growth from Caleb. I think just overall, him not taking sacks, him being better from a clean pocket, that time to throw being down from when he's in a clean pocket. I think there's still times where you want him to throw the ball a little bit sooner, but Yeah, I think Roma Dunze's emergence and growth, and still like a part of his game that we thought you could rely on. It hasn't really been there this year. And what if it does come along at some point? And like I think there's really no ceiling to how good he can be. There are a lot of encouraging parts, but again, this is a young team with a young offense and a new head coach, right? We forget about that. We put so much um, faith in Ben Johnson, and deservedly so, but he's still learning, right? Like he's still learning how to be a head coach and a play caller, to balance those two things. I can only imagine. So I'm sure that has to do with some of the mistakes that they're committing, that this is new. Our offensive coordinator is like my age, right? So that's also crazy. So there, again, I just think this is going to take time. And the Lions, remember that first year with Ben Johnson as the play caller, they were 9-7, right? They were not like this, or I think they might have tied one game. I can't remember. But they were not what they eventually ended up being, which was like a juggernaut offense. They got there eventually at the end of the year. They looked like that, but this was not like the team that we knew. I think it was kind of a similar from what we're seeing with this Bears team, where there were hiccups. And I just think that over time, I have enough faith in Ben Johnson and how he'll develop Caleb to where we're going to have a lot better feeling towards the end of this year.
Yeah, and I have to give credit to Ben Johnson, right? It is hard, right, to be that like X and O play designer mastermind, right? And call plays and then operate as a head coach on offense, defense, and special teams, right? And to be that like vocal leader in the club, in the locker room, on the field. And I am a believer in Ben Johnson, the leader and the head coach. And he's not just that, like isolated X and O guy. My focus is on the offense, and I'm gonna let the special teams and defense just be, operated by everyone else, right? Like he is not that head coach, right? I think you see it with McDaniel. I think you've seen it with Adam Gase. Like just stuff like those are just come top of my mind. But you know what I'm getting at? It's hard to be a play designer, call plays, and be the head coach, right? All in game. And I think Ben Johnson showed that he could be all that, plus that like locker room leader. So I think that's something to be appreciative, because it is always risky, right? When you take those offensive guys and see like, are they going to be isolated away from the team as a whole? Like, but I think Ben Johnson has shown, through halfway through the season, he is a head coach, right? Like he is a head coach, and there is going to be some growing pains. But I think like on any concern that you had as a whole, I think he's answered. And I think you got to feel really good about who he is. And you're right, he's so new to that, and that's a lot, right? That's a lot. He's not just handing play call duties to offense, defense, and sitting back being the head coach. He's got a lot at his stake. And then on top of the leadership qualities he's shown, I am very happy, and I think he's delivered on any concerns maybe you have had. But again, there's still going to be stuff that he is going to grow on, and I think he will.
Yeah, I think this is probably a good way to close it, Snyder. At the very least, whatever you think about Caleb Williams, whatever you think about the defense, I think Bears fans can feel confident that they have the right head coach. And when is the last time we've been able to say that? Maybe Nagy after 2018, but like it was only downhill from there. And I just don't think that's going to happen, because I just think that Ben Johnson has a better grasp, even through however many games we've seen, than I've ever felt with the Bears head coach.
Yeah, I don't think we ever had the head coach, and I know a lot of the older Bears fans will be upset about that. But I can go on all day. That's a different conversation. But I don't think we've ever had the head coach. I know it's still early for Ben Johnson, but I feel really damn good about him.
Yes, I feel as confident as I've ever have. So at the very least, that is encouraging. Now, Ryan Poles needs to pick up his end of the bargain, especially on the defensive side of the ball, talent-wise. But yeah, I think that there's still other encouraging elements of this team. But other than that, Snyder, we acknowledge this is a game they needed to win. They didn't. Hopefully, we can put it behind us soon, and there'll be more encouraging things to talk about, or better things, better results to talk about and dissect. But other than that, Snyder, is there anything else you want to add before we get out of here?
Yeah, I got to clear the air on what I just said. When I say we've never had the head coach, that's my era, right? That's me going back to like, this is like 2000, early 2000s. In present time is when I say it. So I didn't want to say anything about Mike Dick or anything to the older crowd or anything. That's not what I meant. But everyone wants to have a conversation with me. I can go on all day about that, but I just wanted to clear that air.
Fair enough, no doubt. All right, y'all. Well, until we are back to preview the Bengals game, keep it real and bear down.
Bear down.